seem like it's quite a static kind of area of the body, although it's moving, but with regards to the joint, the wrist and the elbow, it may seem like it's quite static. What do you want, again, as a therapist, what do you want from those to be able to maintain sort of healthy joints within the wrist and the elbow?
I've found most golfers to be generally pretty good with elbow and wrist mobility. I often find that the wrist and elbow are overloaded because maybe the lead shoulder is not stable, or maybe they're getting a neurological referral into the elbow. No doubt about it, when a player starts their season, whether amateur or professional, they'll start to, I often find the beginning of the seasons that they'll start to get, because they're firing up the engine again, hitting balls that they haven't maybe hit since the end of the season. I often find that obviously the extensors in the elbow start to get loaded, and then obviously the extensors insert into the wrist. Generally, amateurs will get wrist and elbow problems because of bad technique, where the professionals will get it with good technique, hopefully, but they'll generally get it from pure and utter overload. So it's probably hitting too many balls. Maybe they're changing golf clubs or changing equipment. That happened to the Nike athletes, because Nike removed themselves from golf club manufacturer, so there was an exodus to a number of the golf. So other golf companies, so a lot of them had to go and practice. So that can tend to, or if they're working on a new swing mechanic with their golf coach, then I definitely want to know that, because the elbow and wrist may get overloaded.
Okay, so with regards to common injuries, is golfer's elbow actually a golfer's elbow, or are there other injuries that happen there, or is that something that commonly...
I find with the lead, so the lead elbow, so left one for, say, a right-handed golfer, left the extensor group on, so you basically a tennis elbow on the lead elbow, and then maybe some tendonitis in the wrist. Certainly the extensor carpi ulnaris tendon, which is the extensor that's on the most lateral side, that tendon can get overloaded, certainly at impact and through. And there've been multiple studies where that's the tendon that, if they ultrasound, that's the one tendon that's got a little bit of tenosynovitis or inflammation on the sheath of the tendon. So generally tennis elbow and lead elbow, maybe some tendonitis down here. And then worst case scenarios, you can, if you're stupid enough to, or unlucky enough, if you hit a rock or something on a golf course, you could fracture some of the carpal bones, and that can happen. And then the other one that we'll well know about is, because there's a number of the pros have had, and I've had a couple of amateurs as well, is there's a ligament called the TFCC, and that can degenerate over time, and generally that requires surgery, generally. So what I would recommend, certainly for the UK and Ireland listeners, and if any in the UK or Ireland, I was lucky enough in the European Tour to build up a relationship with their doctor, their consultant on staff is Doug Campbell, who's based in Leeds. And generally, if there's anything iffy with a golfer's wrist, we're lucky enough in Ireland through healthcare that they can get a second opinion outside the country if somebody's deemed an expert enough, which he is. So I tend to get Doug to MRI and assess the wrist issues that aren't settling. Now that's rare, but you still need somebody like him in your corner. And I think if you're in somewhere like New York, I think Andrew Wellman, I think his name is, fantastic surgeon. So a good surgeon can save you a lot of time, because sometimes these guys have to see second opinions and secondary revisions, and it's never such a good thing. I think the most important thing regarding whether you're amateur or professional, and imaging has gotten better. And one thing I learned from Doug is that if you're getting an MRI of the wrist, make sure it's 3 Tesla. Now sounds fancy, but that's the newest generation scanners. And if they can put a wrist coil around it, which basically focuses the scanning on it, you'll be surprised. You get a 2 Tesla scan versus a 3 Tesla scan, it could show 2 different things. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, so the imaging, that's one thing I've learned is, and I had a patient, basically they had a scan a couple of years ago and didn't show too much. I had one with this and it showed a bit more going on. So sometimes the imaging is very important, or certainly the quality of imaging. So I wouldn't necessarily go for the cheapest MRI. I would be asking questions to have them done, but find a good wrist surgeon. From, I guess, where you're going to move now is more of a preventative point of view. Comes all the way back up the chain. Golf is one sport that if you have any weak links, it's going to find it really, really quickly. So I tend to make sure that the lead shoulder is mobile, the scapula is stable, and then that the elbow is nice and strong. So I would probably recommend preemptively doing eccentrics through the elbow. So just get a 1 or 2 kilo dumbbell, and maybe not every day, but if you were doing them maybe twice a week or building them into your gym program, that would help, because effectively the elbow is going to get loaded, so you might as well do them both. And then technically you're going to get golfer's elbow. The other golfing injury we're going to see on the right side is a golfer's elbow on this side, but a lot more obviously from a golf swing biomechanics point of view, it's the left wrist and elbow that's going to get overloaded, and not the right one.